Hey guys, Ben here with Oddly Armed, and today we're going to do another disassembly video, this time of a Heckler Koch MR556A1. So let's go ahead, get in a close look, and see how it works. Alright, so let's go ahead and kick things off by popping out our magazine, and then the disassembly of the 416 is basically the same as it is on an AR-15. So we do have our pivot pins here, however, these are locking on the MR556. So you can see there's a little bit of a detent in there. So what you need to do is take a bullet tip, press it in the hole, press it across, and then it'll pull through to the other side. It's going to be the same way with our front pivot pin here. So again, I'm just going to take a round, press it in, press it across, and it's pretty easy to do. A bit of a pain because you have to have a round to do it, but then you'll go ahead and pop our upper and lower receiver apart, and they'll come apart like a standard AR. All right, so we actually do have a little bit to do here with the lower receiver. We do have a standard buffer spring and then a buffer in there. These are actually not completely standard. The buffer is going to be a different weight than a standard AR-15, and the spring is going to be a little bit heavier as well, but those will come out essentially the exact same as it does on an AR-15. So you can see our buffer, our spring. The buffer doesn't have a weight, which is moving around on the inside, so it is a little bit quieter than your standard AR-15 style buffer. We'll set that aside, and then taking a look at the lower receiver, see we have an AR-15 style, pretty much everything in there. So we have an AR-15 style trigger, and then you can see all of our trigger components in there. There's nothing too crazy, a little bit of a steel plate in the back there. That's actually because the hammer moves a little bit more violently on the 416 due to the carrier velocity, so that kind of protects it in the back there. But there really isn't anything too crazy to see here with the lower receiver. Coming back to our upper receiver, it comes apart exactly the same way as an AR-15. So we'll go ahead and pull our bolt carrier out the back here, and then our charging handle is going to come out the same way as it does on an AR-15 as well. Now, taking a look at our bolt carrier group, you can see there's some pretty major differences between this and a standard AR-15. The biggest one being the gas key here. So this has a built-in tombstone that the gas piston actually interacts on, or the piston rod. And then in the back here, you can see it's actually beveled, and that's because piston-driven AR-15s have an issue known as carrier tilt. So basically, because of a piston hitting here, it has a tendency to knock the back of the carrier down, which you don't have in a standard AR-15, which can cause some damage to the buffer tube over time. So they bevel it here so it slides easier into the buffer tube and doesn't damage it. So let's go ahead and start taking apart our bolt carrier group. So it's going to come apart essentially the same as a standard AR-15. We do have a firing pin retaining pin in the back here, so go ahead and press that across. One cool feature is it is captive on the HK 416. One other thing is it is spring loaded. There is a firing pin spring in here, so your bolt is always going to be forward. You don't have to worry about that like you do on an AR-15. You can see we do have a firing pin safety right here, and that's the part that can actually cause issues with certain AR-15 trigger systems. So if we lift that up, we can pull out our firing pin as well as a firing pin spring. That'll pop out the back of the carrier here, and we'll see both of those. So a little bit different, a little bit beefier than an AR-15 for the bolt carrier, or for the firing pin, and then we have the spring there. Now the rest is standard AR-15, so you take out our cam pin, and then we have our bolt, which is going to be different than an AR-15 because you don't need gas rings, you don't need that little chamber section, but essentially the rest of it is AR-15 style, so nothing too crazy to see here. And the last part is going to be taking apart our gas system. So taking off the handguard is going to be the first part. We have one screw at the back here. Depending on which handguard it is, the bolt can actually act as a tool. Again, I don't necessarily recommend this for longevity's sake, but you basically put it in there, it contours into the cross bolt here, loosen it up, and we'll just unscrew it, and eventually it's going to go ahead and pop out here, at which point our handguard is just going to pull straight off the front of the rifle. Now you can see in the back there is a tab right there which interacts with the top of the receiver there, which is what holds it steady and straight on the rifle. Now this is going to expose our gas system here as well as the gas block. So you can see the Waffen-Work gas block up top, which has multiple different settings to include suppressed, unsuppressed, and multiple variations of that. as well as the very heavy barrel on the MR556. Now to take apart our gas piston system, all you have to do is grab the piston rod, pull back, and then off to the side, and you can pull it straight out of the rifle there. So you can see our piston rod and spring. Now the gas piston itself just pulls straight out of the gas block, so that's all ready to clean there, and that's all you have to do to take apart the gas system. And there we have the MR556A1 fully field stripped. So thank you guys for checking out the video. Please like, share, subscribe, and I'll be coming out with more gun reviews and gun disassembly videos in the near future.